Hi, and welcome back to Alice the Cat's Red Pen Editing Service. There it is. On today's episode, we're going to be reading Heirs of Promise, Chapter 1. Warning, the following program is recorded live and is not necessarily going to be suitable for all viewers. I do not know the content ahead of time, and therefore, it may contain graphic or dark content that may be distressing or triggering for some viewers. Therefore, listener and viewer discretion is advised. Should you want to sign up for your own editing services, please do so. You have to you have to have proof that you're the author, and it has to be not copyrighted. You have to give me permission to use it on YouTube, and that's really about it. So yeah, it's free, at least for now, and thanks for joining. I'm going to play my little intro theme here. Ready for this? I practiced this. Thank you. Okay, so I had to set my guitar down. All right, so we're going to jump right into this. So I don't know how this is pronounced, but I'm going to assume it is Kalal. Kilale, maybe? I don't know. I'm going to assume that it's a different name from, what's Superman's name? Kal-El? Yeah, we'll assume it's not Kal-El. So Kilal pressed the knife into his wrist. Jeez, okay, I'm glad I gave that dark disclaimer up front. That's what a start. All right, so Kalal pressed the knife into his wrist, grasping for immortality. Okay. I don't really know why immortality is capitalized, but we'll run with it. A rusted porcelain sink caught the blood dripping from the open wound as he dragged the sharp blade through his flesh. I'm definitely glad I gave this warning. Jeez, man. Off the bat with this. With a precision gained by decades of practice, Kilal, I'm just going to say Kilal, because I don't know, Kalal, carved, I don't know why this is capitalized, it really shouldn't be. It's not a proper name, so that's an error. A tight circle, 2 inches in diameter. Next came a straight line from the top of the circle to the bottom, each end of the line protruding exactly 1 centimeter past the perimeter. Okay. Each carved, again, capital, so maybe this is like magic or something like that, like alluding to something. Also, immortality was capitalized, so like, I'm thinking there's something like going on with this, but so I won't correct it, but it seems wrong to me. Each carved detail had to be perfect. Even a hair's width of inaccuracy would render the carving obsolete. I'm not really sure what the word I don't think that's the word you're looking for. Like obsolete is like when something is like too old and has like fallen out of fashion. And I think the word maybe you're looking for is like rendered useless, something more like that. Cutting a second line from left to right, the 2 lines intersected perfectly. This is all bullshit. Listen, okay, look at this. Okay, just fucking draw it for me. I don't need all this. Kalal paused and wiped sweat from his forehead to the back of his hand. Bloody business. Can't keep their bloody air conditioning running or something? ? Kalal thought. Yeah, we can do this. I think that even if this was in italics, my best guess is that because it was uploaded without formatting to Pastebin, that if this was italics, I'm not seeing it, and I'm not gonna sit here and gripe about that as a grammatical error. So yeah, this works. So bloody business can't keep their bloody business can't. It may be comma here. I think there should be like a comma, like bloody business can't keep their bloody air conditioning running or something. I don't really understand. He returned the tip of the knife to his flesh and carved 4 more lines, enclosing the circle in a neat diamond. Kalal swapped out his carving knife for a smaller blade suited for minute details. Bro, how is this all this? This is a full paragraph in your opening chapter 1. How is this not fine detail? This is a waste of ink. So, he's carving more minute details. I swear to God, you better not describe them. With a steady hand and a careful attention to detail, he carved a teeny rune in each of the 4 quarters of the circle. Each rune was no more than 1 inch long, and the details they contained were a fraction of that. Breath held, Kalal moved the blade through his flesh with an efficiency, Annie arbiter, again capitalized, not really sure why. I guess it's like showing us that it's like means something. I do think this is a paragraph break. I think this is a formatting error with just the way that it was copied. So finished. Oh, I'm just going to ignore it just because I don't want the whole thing to turn green. So it's either an error or it's just a copy pasting error. It's not a huge deal. But yeah, new paragraph. Finished. He ran his wrist beneath the water from the faucet and examined the raw, open flesh representing the carving of immortality. Satisfied with his work, Kalel walked to the door of the restroom and jiggled the lock. It was secure. It would take more than what an average man was capable of to break through the door. What? Is he like locked in? I don't understand what we're reading here. He checked again anyway. We don't really need this. The door vibrated to the rhythm of the bass blasting behind it. We're getting all these details in like a very like schizophrenic order. Like the first thing we know is all these extremely small details of exactly what the rune that he's carving, or he or she, is it he? Have we seen he? Okay, he. Yeah, it's definitely he. But what's the point of this? Like, why are we just now hearing that it's like, okay, so he's locked in a bathroom and there's bass music. Why? Like, we don't have an answer, and we need one. And we actually needed one before we understood that he was like honestly, an opening of it that someone's like slitting their wrists, that's edgy. Like, fine, I'm grabbed, let's read. But I'm not seeing anything here that's not more just like he was trying to be magical and do magic. Like, okay. Confident the door would stall any would-be restroom goers. Yeah, that's what a door's for. Kalel walked into one of the stalls and locked the door behind him. But isn't he locked in? Taking a seat on the toilet, he chided himself for being so sloppy. How had he let himself be stuck in a club full of humans hostile towards arbiters with no active carvings to defend himself with? Okay, I don't know the answer to that question. And actually, we should probably just delete this because, like, it's implicit, and asking, like, I understand why you're including it, but it should be implicit, and if it is reworked and rewritten and had better flow, we wouldn't need that sentence. It's too on the nose, it's too telling. Carving idiot, he muttered. You're in such a rush to get back to your search for Liliana that you're forgetting the basic tenets of what it meant to be an arbiter. Get yourself together. Okay. Kalel pulled out a third blade. More a pick than a blade, really. I swear to God, are we really about to go back into detail on this? Let me just make sure we're... Oh, okay, I'm glad I checked. We're actually a little bit... Oh, sorry. Hold on. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. There we go. Carving idiot, he mumbled. You're in such a rush to get back to your search for this lady, blah, blah, blah. Kalel pulled a third blade, more of a pick than a blade really, and shoved it into the center of the carving. He pressed his feet up against the stall legs, what's that mean? Locked his knees straight, and shoved himself tight against the toilet tank. Okay. Taking a deep breath, he rotated the pick 180 degrees clockwise. The carving flashed white. Okay. The seizure, what seizure, hit him with the force of a war plague. What? I don't know what this means. This is gibberish to me. Okay, so here, let's recap. So, emo dude, slitting his wrists, not trying to die, he's trying to be immortal, carving runes for magic. And he's butthurt because he is exposed in an area that people are hostile to mages in a magical world. Okay, not much here. Kalel shook, his body tightening and his muscles spasmed. Is this erotica? Like, what is this? The stall shook with him, and his legs kept him pressed tightly against the toilet, keeping him from falling to the ground. Okay. The stall door knocked against its lock, and its rhythmic paging seemed to mimic the bass beating outside of the bathroom. Why? Why did it seem to do that? Why are we even including this detail? The minute the seizure lasted felt like eternity? Huh? This is just a grammatical error. There's something wrong here. I'm not even going to try to fix it. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's funny, actually. So it's red, but when I click away, it goes to green. Green is just because I'm so quote unquote suggesting. I'm just going to change to editing mode from this point forward and see if that works. Oh, yeah, okay. That does that work? Sorry, just bear with me a bit. Okay, I understand why it's doing that now. It's because I have to close the thing. It doesn't matter. So, okay, but eventually it was over. Thank God. Breathing raggedly, eyes half open, Kalel flipped himself over and placed his knees on the floor just as nausea took over. Okay, so let's recap. Dude slits his wrists. He's a mage. He's trying to get more powerful. He's like doing all this crap, spewing bile. Blah, 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 into the toilet, spits, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're 12 paragraphs in. 13, kind of. and nothing's happening. Finished, he flushed the toilet, walked back to the sink and splashed water over his face. Watching to fit his large frame into the mirror, he glanced at the man who stared back. Pale, clammy skin, dark sunken eyes, oily, dark hair brushing against his shoulders. You have three of the same sentence, like pale, comma, clammy skin, dark, comma, sunken eyes, oily, comma, dark hair. It's just like really awkward. Just the way this is written, there's no need for this. His beard it's called listing. You don't want to list things in prose. You can, but it's distracting. So his beard was so thick and unruly, he couldn't remember the last time a razor had connected with his cheeks. Well, that's because he's busy slitting his wrists all the time, so. Bloodshed and oaths, you look like a bloody ash fallen. Which means nothing to your readers, by the way. Or like a man allergic to soap and water. Haha, hilarious. And a razor blade. Yeah, I don't understand the humor here. I'm assuming it's humor, at least. Like, why are you allergic to soap and water? Is it just me because he's, like, unruly or something? Like, unkempt or something? If yes, just say that. I mean, I guess he did, but... He ran his left wrist under the faucet sink, washing the blood from his skin. Clear of blood, he saw what he already knew would be there, smooth and unblemished skin. He pulled out the first knife he had used and placed it against his forefinger. Gritting his teeth, he cut his finger off with one swift motion. It fell, rolling into the sink. White energy akin to lightning cackled? Lightning cackled around and severed... white energy akin to lightning cackled around the severed joint as bone began to grow. Okay, so he's got Full Metal Alchemist powers. And with the mending limb came the pain. Okay. It wasn't enough that he had to endure the pain of the carving and the pain from the injury. This to me reads like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood fanfic. He also had to endure the searing pain that came with the healing. Instantly regrowing bone, muscles, tendons, skin, organs came with an agony. He wagered. Why does he wager? Was worse than the injury itself. Oh, I see. Okay. It's just the phrasing is a little bit awkward here. I'm not going to take time to edit it. I think it needs to be rewritten. Muscles sprouted around the newly made bone. Okay, we need to move. This is my advice here. We're 16 paragraphs in. This part right here, the fact that it's healing, needs to be moved up almost to like paragraph like 4, maybe. Like, show that it's magic. Show that it's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, alchemy. Like, move it up so that we know what we're getting into. Because, like, we can infer it. It's not like we're shocked to read this. Like, we're just disappointed that it's not something more magical, I guess. Like, the payoff of reading for 16... Well, it's not really 16, but reading for however many paragraphs at this point. Like, there's nothing here, Like, it's some dude locked in a bathroom. Like, this is not appealing. Immortality was his. For the next 48 hours at least. Like, okay, fine, it's a spell. Then he would have the joy of carving everything all over again. Wow, okay. One carving down, 2 more to go. He pressed the blade into his flesh and began carving of gravitational control. It's kind of cool. When he finished the second carving, he went back to the stall, drove his pick into the center of the carving, and activated it. This time, it wasn't able to flip himself around in time to vomit. Fortunately for him, there wasn't much left in his stomach, and he only spilled a small amount of bile onto his shirt. Unfortunately for him, any amount of bile still tasted terrible. Well, it's bile. Are we really going to waste a whole paragraph talking about the bile that he's puking? Like, is this relevant to the plot? Ask yourself this. Is this relevant to the plot? And here's actually a better question. What is the plot? So far, here's our plot. Emo dude cutting himself, locked in a bathroom at a club. Not much. Okay, Kal-El stumbled back to the sink and held himself above it for a moment. He took a few deep breaths before he splashed some water onto his face and into his mouth, trying his best to clear the vile taste. Like, this sentence isn't terrible. It's just, like, in context, there's nothing, like, particularly glamorous about it. You're starting a second paragraph with his name. It's fine. It's not a big deal, but Kal-El pictured the carving of gravitational control in his mind and turned it into a knob. I don't know what that means. He, quote, grabbed the knob and turned it to the right, increasing gravity's effect on him. When the tiles began groaning beneath his increased weight, Kal-El returned the knob to normal. Okay. So he's doing gravity magic, that's fine. Carvings 1 and 2 completed. He began his third and final carving, the carving of deific strength. Dude, okay, here's just a suggestion. You don't have to take it. Can we just combine all of this into one rune? Like, can we just draw one alchemy circle that's just like, he then drew the rune for strength, he then drew the rune for gravity, he then drew the rune that was most important, and it was immortality, and now he would be very powerful until it healed, or something to that effect. Like, we're 22 paragraphs in, and like, he's still powering up, dude. Like, there's this moment where you're about to go for like a raid in like like World of Warcraft or something, like an MMORPG, where everyone just sits outside the boss room buffing each other up. Like, it feels like, just get on with it, dude. Okay, the light bulb in the ceiling flickered. He froze, okay? The lights flickered again, okay? His chest tightened and his breath stuck in his throat. Okay. Why? The third time the lights flickered, ash began falling from the ceiling. Why? What is happening here? Kal-El wrenched the knife from his wrist and dropped it. He squeezed his eyes shut and pressed the palms of his hands painfully into his cheeks. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real, he repeated. You're not there anymore. You escaped. Is this a PTSD flashback? This reminds me of the scene from this movie called, it was a Leonardo DiCaprio movie called Shutter Island, and it's about a World War II soldier who has a psychiatric break after he witnesses the Holocaust, and like people who were in, I think it was like Dachau or something, like one of those like mass graves, and like people are like spilling out of the the train cars, but it also mixes with his PTSD from like when his like wife like left him, or the children like died because his wife like killed them. Sorry for the spoilers, but like the movie was terrible, so you're not missing anything. But this reminds me of just like the same type of like, why are we doing this flashback now? And is this a flashback? And if it is a flashback, why isn't it clear that it's a flashback? Although on a positive note, this far into the story is about when you would start doing things like flashbacks. So it's not terrible, but it's also just like, I don't know. Stabilizing his breathing, he slowly lowered his hands and opened his eyes. The ash was gone. Okay. Twice in 2 days, he said, rubbing his eyes. How dramatic. He wanted to believe he'd be free of the ashen lands. Okay, so I guess he like fought in the War of Ishvala, like Scar did in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That someday he would be able to close his eyes and not see the tower again. Like, we don't have context. We're chapter 1, page 4, or like whatever. Like, we don't have context watching it, and I'm not intrigued either. He wouldn't hold his breath. Neither would your audience. Kal-El retrieved his knife and returned to working on his third and final carving. The door jingled. Didn't he finish the carving? The doorknob jingled, and he began cutting. He should have. His hand guided the knife with a keen precision. The door jingled again. Jingled? This is just a weird word choice. And this time it was followed up by a pounding from the other side. Get to the point and move on. Holy fuck, they said it. They said it. This is exactly how I feel about this story right now. Get to the point and move on. Kal-El said. He really wasn't in the mood to play nice. That's exactly how I'm feeling reading this. Okay, he sighed when the door slammed open, crashing against it. Didn't he lock it? How did it crash open? Like someone like kicked the door in? Okay. Crashing against the wall with a loud bang. Music, fast and rhythmic, flooded the restroom. I do like that, actually. I do like this particular sentence. I like it. A large, bald man strode through the door, his white t-shirt sticking to his sweat-soaked skin, and wearing pants he shouldn't have been able to fit into. Okay, this is actually good. This is characterizing. There's a character. There's conflict. We should have had this on paragraph 6 or 7. The newcomer stopped dead at the sight of Kal-El's wrist dripping blood and a knife in hand. Yeah, that's kind of edgy. 2 other men, dressed similarly, stopped in their tracks, one even bumping into the bald one. One of the men had a jaw pointy enough to pierce skin, and the other had a chin so flabby he barely had a neck. Is this relevant to the plot, or are these characters going to matter? If not, delete this. 3 sets of eyes moved as one to his wrist. Yeah, that's actually not bad. This paragraph overall is where we should have been, again, like 10 paragraphs, 20 paragraphs ago. Baldy sneered at Kal-El. That's fine. Did you see the sign, freak? He yelled, his voice barely heard over the cacophony of music blaring into the bathroom. Your kind isn't welcome here. I assume he's a human. No Neck sneered. I also like this. Looks like we caught him before he could finish. Baldy scrunched up his face and pinched his nose closed with 2 fingers. What is that smell? He resisted the urge to reply with, forgive me for not consistently caring for my hygiene over the last few years as I was held captive and tortured in the Ashen Lands, you know, the lands of the other. Okay, listen. This is too much. It's too distracting, and I don't have words for what this is, but we really don't need this. It's not characterizing, it's distracting. Like, we already know that he's like PTSD from like some war in the Ashen Lands. We don't care. The three stepped into the room. The pointy chin, I'm starting to not like this as much, but it works. The pointy chin shut the door. Kal-El found himself blessed with quiet again. I don't think it's really relevant to say that. Like, unless it is, I don't know. Seems just like it's lagging. Baldy cracked his knuckles and spoke, filling the air with a noise almost as annoying as Kal-El as the music in the background. Oh, to Kal-El as the music in the background. Yeah, that's fine. That works. We ought to teach him what happens to his kind when they go places that they aren't wanted. Okay. Pointy Chin grabbed Baldy's arm. Come on, Drig. We don't know if he is one of those arbiters who can use more than one carving. What if he already has a second alchemy circle that he drew? You should really listen to your friend, he said, returning his knife to the sheath on his belt. The last thing we need is to accidentally kill this fool. Baldy smiled. You can't hurt us. Your oath will only let you hurt arbiters and ashfallen, not innocent folk like us. He shook his arm free of Pointy Chin and strode forward. Kal-El sighed, shaking his head. Technically, you're right. I can't hurt you. That is, he continued, unless I consider you a threat. Yeah, you can't really put a period here. This is just a bit of a grammatical error. This should be a comma because the clause hasn't ended. Like, that's not a sentence. That is, comma, unless I consider you a threat. In which case, I'm free to defend myself. So, what do you think? Should I consider you a threat? Question mark. Okay, I don't know why that any of this is, but sure, it's kind of like I think his name's Jordan. He has a huge wand, and he's from he's based on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's from the Timmy Turner show, Fairly Odd Parents. And he comes and he opens the book and it says the rules, and he explains them. So it's like, I don't know the rules of this universe yet, so I don't particularly care either. But I feel like we need Jordan to like explain the rules, and like this is just not the time for that right now. Like, unless it's like actually plot relevant at this exact moment, and even if it is, this type of trite dialogue just seems like, why are these men standing there talking to this guy? Like, I don't know, it just seems weird. It seems contrived, that's the word. Baldy faltered and looked back at his two friends. They gave him quick shakes of their head. Unfortunately for Kal-El, Baldy wasn't, unfortunately for Kal-El, Baldy was made of dumber stock than most. Nah, Baldy said, turning back to Kal-El. I don't believe you. Never heard of such a thing. You're just trying to save yourself. Bloodshed and oaths, Kal-El cursed. Is that dialogue? It's not dialogue, so I don't know why it says that he cursed. This carving idiot is going to make me hurt him. Carving idiot? I don't understand. Is he using that as like a verb? It's not very clear. Kal-El unsheathed the carving knife and brandished it at the men. Get out, now. Baldy looked at the knife, to Kal-El, back to his friends. He didn't make any gesture to leave. Kal-El emitted a low growl. Okay. He did not have time to deal with fools like this. Kal-El didn't want to hurt them, but he didn't feel like he was being left with much choice. Unleft, we can delete all this. Kal-El held his hand open and ran the blade across his palm, parting flesh. Blood dripped, and white energy cackled around the palm as the wound began re-knitting. The trio paled? You're missing a period here. It's a very small error, but you are missing a period there. Again, he pointed the knife at Baldy, then at the door. This is the wrong type of than. This is like comparing. It should be then with an E, as in it happened subsequently. Get out. Baldy wheeled on his friends, shoving them aside as he made for the door. Wait. Kal-El's voice thundered through the bathroom. Why is he yelling wait? He just told them to get out. The men froze. Your shirt, Drig, Kal-El says. Give it to me. Okay. Carving idiot, Kal-El thought, looking down at his vomit-stained shirt. What? Carving idiot, Kal-El thought? I think you're missing a comma here. Like, carving idiot, Kal-El thought. I just don't like any of this. Where the hell is my comma? I was hitting the wrong button. Killel thought, looking down at his vomit-stained shirt. What would you do if Drig hadn't been as large as he is? Walk through the club smelling of death and stomach bile? Good thinking. Drig didn't argue. He ripped his shirt off, threw it at Killel, and charged out the door. His friends not far behind. Killel caught the sweaty shirt and groaned. This thing smelled like it had been dripped in a gallon of cologne. I actually like that. That's actually a good description. He placed the shirt aside and began finishing his third and final carving. When he completed the whole process, so wait, so what the hell was the point of all that? Like, 3 dudes walk in, they're like, hey man, we don't like your kind here. And he's like, give me your shirt or I'll beat you up. And they're like, okay. Like, what was the point of all this? When he completed the whole process, he did his best to clean himself up at the sink one last time. He put on Drig's shirt and was pleased to see he didn't look too ridiculous in the small, sweaty shirt. Okay. Feeling like a new man and having wasted 58 paragraphs, his 3 carving refueling his body with energy and confidence, Killel exited the bathroom, ignoring the flickering lights. This is a bit of a mouthful. Wincing as music assailed him, he headed down the short hall end walls of chipped and peeling black paint. Is he like hypersensitive to sound or something? Because it hasn't really been shown other than he's like annoyed with it. He's like, oh, you damned kids and your music. So I think you need to like differentiate between like an actual weakness and a like, because if it's just for characterization that he doesn't like loud sound, is that plot or characterizingly relevant? Because it doesn't seem to be. It seems to just be this like arbitrary detail you keep including. And like, you can do that, but so far, like, here's what we know of this man. He cuts himself for power. He doesn't like music. And large men that we thought were going to get killed or beat up and have a exposition of power don't. Like, okay. Like, you built all this tension in for what? The hall deposited Killel into an enormous square room, 3 stories high. Over 100 bodies, by Killel's estimation, moved about on the floor under the probing lights. I do like the word probing a lot, and I might actually steal it from my own club fiction. I like that a lot. Dancing to the rhythm of the booming bass. Let me read that again. Over 100 bodies, by his estimation, moved. We actually don't need this. This is what they call filtering. So this is actually an important timeout. So filtering is the process by which that you add in, well, a filter. So you can remove a filter. So now instead of it being filter like over 100 bodies moved about on the dance floor under the probing lights, that's it. That's all you need. You don't need to say by his estimation. That's implicit because we already know that we're at least in his head because we've been given his thoughts and we only have one POV as far as I can tell. So yeah, you don't need to actively filter it. So yeah, don't filter. And that's not true just in this sentence. This is like broad advice for anyone listening. Yeah. Or at least that's what Killel assumed they were doing when they... I don't really know why you added that. Is that like supposed to be like sarcastic or something? I don't know. When had the flailing about of arms on like, you damned kids and you're dancing. Stupid. Stupid, stupid. Killel cut through the dance floor and made his way to the spiraling staircase on the other side of the room. Okay. I think you can go with A instead of the because we don't really have context for what the spiraling staircase is. So a spiraling staircase will work just fine. Small error, but it's not even an error. It's just like small stylistic note. Cologne, perfume, and the body odor mingled into one collage of stink, which made him... So, okay, this is not meant to be derogatory or even sarcastic. Is this character supposed to be autistic? Like, is it supposed to be some sort of like enhancement on sensitivity? Is this a weakness? Is this a superpower? Like... this is something that like we're getting into sensory immersion perceptive disorder at this point, to the point where like my clinical diagnostics, like I'm not qualified to diagnose anyone in real life, but I can diagnose this character as like something's off here, and it may just be because you're trying too hard to, as an author, it may be that the author here is trying too hard to give us a sense of like realism by like adding in these like smell and sight details and stuff like that, but like it doesn't seem to be working. It seems to just be distracting from the significant lack of plot. Like, we don't need all these details about what he smells. Like, he walked around the corner and smelled poop. He walked around the next corner and smelled a different color of poop. Like, we don't care. His wide, muscled frame shoved aside anyone not keen enough to get out of his way. and he quickly found himself free of the knotted press of moving flesh. Did you see Black Adam, the movie Black Adam with The Rock? It was terrible, but like this basically reads to me the same way. He ascended the steps, taking them 3 at a time. I like that a lot. And walked onto the 3rd floor balcony overlooking the dance floor. I like this a lot. This is the best sentence I have read so far. I like this. The clock on a nearby wall flashed the time in bright red numbers. 12:21. Just in time, his target was said to frequent this club every evening at 11 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. sharp. Moving to a table at the edge of the balcony, Kalal took a seat and waited. So what was the point of those 3 men earlier? Like, you spent a lot of ink just like, hey man, we don't like you here. What was the point of that? A young woman approached him, and they like knocked the door in or something? I don't know. It was very incoherent. A young woman approached him, carrying a notebook and a smile. He knelt down beside him, or she knelt down beside him and placed a hand on his thigh. She raised an eyebrow. What can I get for you, handsome? She said, voice raised to be heard. This is a grammatical error. It's not supposed to be capitalized. It's supposed to be, because it's the same clause. It's the same sentence. So, what can I get for you, handsome? She said, voice raised to be heard. Yeah, so it would be, it's all one sentence. The period is in the correct spot after the word heard. But yeah, that means that that she would be lowercase because it isn't a proper noun. Handsome, question mark. This girl either had extremely poor taste in men or she was looking for a good tip. Either way, 100 years ago, Kalel would have reciprocated the flirtatious attitude of the waitress. So this is a Black Adam archetype then. It's like, he's like an immortal, like, ooh, I don't know. Now, he gently moved her hand from his leg, never taking his eyes from the dance floor beneath him. Never get distracted by bitches. That's the that's the archetype here. Like, don't let bitches cloud your vision. Like, fuck them hoes. So he's got that riz. He's got that attitude. He's got that chip on his shoulder. My man is bossing with his cut up arms. Water, he said. So again, grammatical error. It's actually 2 grammatical errors. It's a series of grammatical errors. It needs to be comma. I also don't mean to be misogynistic. I'm being a shit poster, by the way, to my female audience. And my Vadies. Shout out to my Vadies. She didn't answer or bother to write down his order. Okay. She stood up, turned on her heels, and stormed away. Pointless character. Pointless characterization. Kalel didn't expect to receive his water anytime soon. He scooted his chair up against the guardrail and placed his arm on it as he moved his eyes across the massive bodies below him. We can completely delete that female interaction, and the character is no different. He's actually, and again, I don't mean this offensively, he's actually less gay if you delete that character, because, and listen, if this character is gay, or just isn't into women, or is like asexual, that's fine, but it just is a strange thing to include a specifically sexual connotation, like, she's touching him, but he's not into it. He's above that because he's really old and powerful. Like, that's fine, but it just seems out of place at this time. Kellel felt the arrival before he found the man. It felt like a spike in pressure behind his eyes. Okay, you're gonna have to explain why. The room seemed to warp, the walls bending, flexing outward as the man exited the revolving glass doors and into the club. What an immense power. Only a few times in Kellel's 200 years of life had he felt power like this. The power he felt confirmed his decision to hunt down Jaden. Now, he only had to convince the man to help him save the world. Okay, this is all bullshit. Okay, this is what they call, this is info dumping, and this is one of the worst mistakes you can make in fiction. We have 0 context, 0 characterization, 0 plot, and now we're getting all 3 of those things all up front, all at once, in one paragraph, too late and out of context. So you need to take this apart. You need to figure out where these details need, because these are vital details, obviously. We finally have who he's looking for. So, like, maybe we should mention, like, so-called Jaden. Maybe we should mention him, like, in the first, like, 2 paragraphs. Like, oh, he's cutting his arms because he's looking for Jaden. Something to that effect. Like, because right now we don't have context for why he was cutting his arms or why these 3 men were there. Like, we're getting all this information very out of order. And it isn't in a way that makes us intrigued. It's in a way that makes us want to stop reading. So, yeah, it confirmed, blah, 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 his power when he walked through. Like, what does that mean? Like, why is he powerful when he walks through? Who sent him to hunt him down? blah blah blah. Like we're missing too much, and we're missing too much, and it isn't mysterious. It's actually just like bad writing. That's the best way I can put that. It's not mysterious. It's bad writing. So Jaden, chest puffed out, walked from the this is just distracting. Like Jaden walked past the entrance of the dance floor, smiling and pointing at people like he owned the place. He wore a green V-neck T-shirt with the V dipping nearly beneath his flat, hairless chest. Huh? Whatever. I'm just gonna keep reading. His yellow pants were so tight. I like that. He wasn't sure if his legs hadn't been painted. I don't really understand that, but I do like that he's tight yellow pants. It's kind of funny. The 6 inches or so of skin showing above the ankle. It's the same problem that you had earlier. You're going into like hyper specificity about each and every individual detail, as if it's like we don't need to be able to have stable diffusion make a picture of this man. We just need to know that he walks in like a baller, dripped out in ice. Yo, he sits down. Yo, what up, my gangsters? Like, we need something to characterize it other than this like extremely dense paragraph of like the 6 inches or so of his skin showing above ankle-high white socks confirmed that he was indeed wearing yellow pants. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Anyway, black leather shoes rounded out the man's abysmal clothing decision. Okay, that's a good sentence. I like that a lot. For such a provocative outfit, Kal-El would have assumed the man wearing them would have had a reason to wear them, but Jaden didn't look like he had done an honest day's work in his life. About the only thing he had going for him was a neatly trimmed haircut over bushy brown eyebrows. Yeah, that's all one paragraph, by the way. I'm going to start reading a lot quicker because we've been going for about a half an hour now, right? Yeah, about a half an hour. So I'm going to start reading a lot quicker. Okay, the music stopped and everything went quiet, but no one stopped dancing. In fact, Kal-El could feel the bass of the music vibrating and the railing of... Okay, I'm convinced that there may be some like stim things going on with this. Vibrating the railing against his arm and through the floor and through his feet. What was going dash question mark? Kal-El shot to his feet. What does that mean? What was going dash question mark? Is this like his thoughts are getting cut off? Just don't do this. Kal-El shot to his feet, kicking the chair behind him as he did so, and turned about, hands up before him. 3 individuals sat at his table. Arbiters, Kal-El thought. You're missing a comma. And one of them had created a sound pocket around them. Is that magic? Normally, Kal-El would have sensed the use of carving, but the sensation must have been drowned by the immense power of Jaden below him. I'm not following this. Kal-El eyed the 3, running a quick appraisal of them. I like the word appraisal there. The one sitting nearest to Kal-El was tall and lean. You need a better word than was. You shouldn't use the word was. Boo, was. Boo. Yet solid with muscle, he sported a black tank top with gray tattoos wrapped around his arms. Kal-El recognized the tattoos. The idiot had carving tattoos over his skin. So it's Scar from Full Metal Alchemist. Kal-El didn't know whether he should slap him for such foolishness or fear of him if he displayed blah 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 blah. This is so boring. The second person sitting across from the tattoo was a woman with short blonde hair. Nothing stood out about her. She hunched forward, folding her shoulders in and kept her arms beneath the table. She was trying to display a sheepish personality, which Kal-El assumed probably... Is anything going to happen here, or are we just going to describe how people look? Is anything going to happen? The third and final arbiter held his attention. He wore a long black coat. So it's a black dude with this black skin. Kal-El picked up the chair as he kicked over. Oh, he had kicked over a chair, placed it at the table, and sat carefully. Okay, finally some dialogue. Okay. An enlightened arbiter, a high arbiter, and an inflector entered a club. Every table in the club was theirs to choose from. Which one did they decide to sit at? Question mark. They each stiffened as he correctly labeled each one. I don't understand. Like, it's kind of like a cop and like an FBI agent, a CIA agent, and a cop walk into a bar, and I notice all 3 of you. Ha ha ha. Is that kind of what we're going for here? Tattoo rolled his eyes and sucked at something stuck between his teeth. I don't know which one. Kal-El narrowed his eyes. The wrong one. Okay. The lady leaned forward, placing her arm on the table and straightened her back. Good, she wasn't trying to hide who she was anymore. From where I'm sitting, I think we chose the right one. Okay. What do you want? Our main character said. To talk. I'm Issa, she said. Yathu. She said, this is a grammatical error. You need to lowercase. Nodding towards the inflictor, who gave Kalel a small nod, and he's... Okay, so what you're doing here is you're switching antecedents. Like, yeah, you... I don't like it. Because, like, you're mixing two different actions. Like, you're missing... Like, it's like character A did speech while looking at character B, who did B action, but then A continued talking. It's a little confusing. Sorry if that's a bad explanation, but you can look up antecedent switching. It's a little confusing. So, none of your business, Tattoo said, picking up. I kind of like the way that you nickname everybody, but I still don't know what happened to the three, like, men. Like, why'd you spend so long in the bathroom describing these three men if you were just going to replace them with, like, 3 other completely useless characters? Blah, 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 blah. Cows gave a small shrug. I ain't worried. Blah, blah, blah. Ain't here to wipe the floor with you anyway. One moment. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they didn't move. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, my goodness. I'm just, like, scanning just to see if it's going to get better. Oh, my goodness. So it doesn't get better. It just gets more confusing. There is no... So... There are so many things that I can't even, like... You can't fix something like this. It needs to be rewritten. So, okay, so here's... I don't even know what to say about all this. Are you really bringing yourself this close to an arbiter you don't know, and whose carvings you aren't aware of? Like, he's immortal, dude. Who cares? Kaz gave a small shrug. I ain't worried. Kalel gave Kaz a smile of full teeth. You should be. Whatever Kaz saw in Kalel's face and his eyes paused the sucking in his teeth. Okay. Kaz leaned back and crossed his arms. Ain't here to wipe the floor with you anyway. One moment, our main character said, and pushed himself away from the table. He stood and walked back to the railing and looked out over the dance floor. His head swiveled back and forth like a man in charge, but with his eyes searched frantically. This is just micro details. We don't need this. The search didn't last long. A large circle of empty floor had formed around Jaden. We don't need this either. See, look at this. You see how much better that is? He stood and walked back to the railing and looked out over the dance floor. A large circle of empty floor had formed around Jaden. The man flailed about, moving from girl to girl in an effort to recruit them to be his dance partner. After so many rejections, wasn't he, like, risen to the max with, like, yellow pants? Like, do people not like that? Kello would have thought that the guy would have gotten to the point, like, isn't he, like, super powerful and, like, all the men are attracted to him? Like, our main character's, like, way into him from my memory. He's like, oh my god, I feel the pulsing as soon as you walked in. Kello walked back to the table, and as he did so heard Kaz rebuking Issa. I can't believe you're gonna let him talk to us like that. Issa ignored him. Like I asked before, our main character said, what do you want? What do you want? Who are you? Yathu didn't move. He kept his sunglasses firmly planted on Kalal and his right hand on the table. Kalal didn't let that hand out of sight. Oh my god. We are representatives of the heir of the promise, she said. Grammatical error. Should be a comma, because the clause did not end. Kalal shrugged. That's supposed to mean something to me? Kaz Guafat. Alright, I am fucking done. I can't do it. I actually can't read anymore. It's too esoteric, it's too specific, there's too many proper nouns, the names are too wacky, nothing makes any sense, there is no plot. The plot isn't being revealed in a way that is coherent. They're issuing threats, like, you have 24 hours to leave the city. This time tomorrow, if you have not left, you will be blackmarked. The first arbiter to kill you will be handsomely rewarded. Like, this right here should be like paragraph number 30, right? The characters should have already sat down. There should have been no confrontation in the bathroom. There should have been no wasted time with this. Like, there doesn't seem to be purpose to any of these events. I think maybe if we were to like visually see this play out in a screenplay, it would be more coherent, because it allows you to leave more unsaid. Let's put it that way. But the problem is that the stuff that you are saying is distracting and isn't making any sense. We don't have any context of what Ashfallen are. We don't know if they're zombies. We don't know if they're angels. We don't know if they're mages. We don't care. And we also don't know who Jaden is. We don't know why he's here to protect him from the world or kidnap him or become his boyfriend or whatever it is that he's doing with this powerful man who's going to save the world with him or something. Like, nothing makes sense. And that's a really big problem for chapter 1. Like, we aren't getting enough information to have context for any of this stuff. And as it is written, you're using so many words to just describe these minutiae of details that